I'd like to open the February 11th regular planning board meeting and public hearings. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being videotaped, and we might be going out live as well. So first up would be administrative items. 1A is approval not required, A&R for 58 Charlotte White Road, file number 25-003A, request by applicant for endorsement of a two-lot plan of land located at 58 Charlotte White Road, Assessor's Map 68, Lot 7AA, to convey 3,626 square feet to Map 68, Lot 9B.
Hi, good evening, Matt Pike on behalf of the applicant with South Coast Engineering. So the purpose of this plan is to divide Assessors Plat 68, Lot 7AA into one new lot and parcel A as shown in the plan. Parcel A, pie-shaped piece there. So the property is located on Charlotte White Road and is currently the site of Atlantic Salvage. The land's owned by David and Linda Engtel and has a street address of 58 Charlotte White Road. The lot, as it is, contains 79,156 square feet of land, and of which parcel A is 3,626 square feet. So the purpose of this parcel A will be conveyed to Assessors Plat 68, Lot 9BA. This lot here, which is 60 Charlotte White Road. There's no septic components or well in that area, and there's no change in the frontage. So 60 Charlotte White Road, that lot's pre-existing non-conforming, and it was created by an A&R in 1969. The area of that lot will increase by 3,626 square feet, and it'll give it a new total area of 35,659 square feet. Assessors Plat 68, Lot 7AA will have a new area of 75,530 square feet, and the frontage will remain at 150 feet. The Form A lots west of the parcel being divided were originally created as part of an 8-acre tract of land. That was sold by Tillinghast Kirby to Julia D. Moranville in 1887, and the deed can be traced back with the references shown on the plan. The parcel being divided was created by an A&R process in 1997 as a division of land owned by Wilfred and Phyllis Engtel, and which are the parents of the current owner. Now turn it over to the board.
Okay, so lot 68, I'm sorry, AP lot 88 is increasing in area so that it's becoming slightly not more conforming, right?
No, so 68 lot 7AA is the one that's losing the 3,626 feet, and so that'll remain conforming. And then lot 6, Assessors Plat 60A, lot 9BA is the non-conforming lot and will become slightly more conforming.
Right. Okay, planners?
Okay, so as stated, map 68 lot 7AA, which in the staff review is referred to as parcel A, is giving 3,626 square feet of land to map 68 lot 9B, henceforth referred to as parcel B. Continuing on to the staff review and the criteria for A&R endorsement, the lots shown on the plan must front on one of three types of ways, and the lots shown on this plan front on Charlotte White Road, a public way. The lots shown on the plan must meet the minimum frontage requirements. Parcel A has frontage of 150 feet. The land conveyance will not affect the existing frontage of this lot or frontage on parcel B, which has frontage of 139.79 feet. Parcel B does not meet the frontage requirements of 150 feet, which is a pre-existing, and it is a pre-existing non-conforming lot. In addition, there will be no change to Charlotte White Road, nor the creation of any way relating to this proposal. Charlotte White Road is an accepted street maintained by the town, which provides sufficient width and suitable grades. When it comes to the intensity regulations, Parcel A currently has an area of about 80,000 square feet. After the land conveyance to Parcel B, Parcel A will have a lot area of about 76,000 square feet. Parcel B currently has an area of about 32,000 square feet. After the land conveyance, it will have an area of about 36,000 square feet. The level of nonconformity in Parcel B is decreasing, though it is still nonconforming. Endorsement does not mean the lot is buildable. Parcel A does remain buildable per Westport zoning bylaws. And lastly, no wetlands have been delineated on either parcel. So staff finds that the proposed A&R meets the criteria for A&R endorsement and recommends that the planning board endorse the proposed A&R plan.
Okay, any comments or questions on the board? Yep.
So this is an A&R plan to divide this existing lot?
It already exists in 2 lots.
It's in 2 lots now, so they
Right.
just add to.
Could divide it differently, right?
Could divide it differently.
It's dividing it differently than it was.
Yeah.
So when it's adding more to the non-conforming. So this lot
Yeah.
wasn't combined because it was in the same name, it's in separate names?
Yeah, separate owners.
Makes it a little bit better than it was before, still non-conforming.
Yeah, what I'm
but-
just asking is
Yeah.
if it was combined, because it was in two owners' names.
I believe the lot lines go where the dotted lot line is now, and they're adding that triangular piece from the big lot to the small lot.
But these 2 lots, they don't belong to the same people?
No,
and
it's
they're not-
separate ownership.
Okay.
Separate. So this is creating the non-buildable parcel A, which will later be conveyed to AP 68 lot 9B.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no others, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the 58 Charlotte White Road based on the recommendation of the staff that it meets the requirements.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and no opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Rosewood Lane, file number 23-039C-MOD, release of lots 1 and 2 for land located at AP 29, lot 22C, at 0 Gifford Road between 225 and 247 Gifford Road, and established performance surety. Is there anybody here for that?
There is someone here for that, but I think Dia can give a summary of
Okay.
the issues at hand and what has been requested.
Okay. So per the semifinal inspection prepared by Field Engineering, the outstanding items for this development are that the proposed grass swales be regraded, loamed, and seeded as necessary to provide cover and function as designed. The sediment that has built up behind the stone check dams must be removed. The grassed shoulder areas will need to be fine graded and reseeded in the spring to establish the necessary ground cover. And surface stones in the grass shoulder areas need to be removed as well. So the applicant is looking for a motion to release the lots from covenants and to establish a performance surety of $10,000 to ensure that the remaining work is completed.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, then I would entertain a motion.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we release lots 1 and 2 for land located at AP 29, Lot 22C, 0 Gifford Road, but that we retain $10,000 of surety for completion of the work as described in the planner's report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next is Silverback Construction, file number 21-004 SPA, temporary certificate of occupancy request for 2 Cheryl's Way.
Yep.
Please, your name
Michael DeMello,
and your address?
2A Sherrill Way, Westport, Mass.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry? I'm just here to see if I can get the temporary occupancy permit for that property on 2A Sherrill Way.
Mr. Chairman, we have a report from the consulting engineer that the assistant planner can provide you all a summary on.
Okay. So the previous approval, at the public hearing held on November 16th, 2021, the planning board moved to approve the site plan application for 2 Cheryl's Way. The project as presented, which complied with all applicable requirements of the Westport zoning bylaws, the rules and regulations governing the subdivision of land, and site plan approval, was approved for a 4,200 square foot 2-story commercial building for garage storage and office space with 16 parking spaces. The conditions of approval included, but were not limited to, the following. One, that any material changes determined by the building inspector to the approved site plan shall require planning board approval. Number 2, that erosion and sediment controls be installed prior to construction and maintained throughout, and that landscaping be in accordance with the approved plans. And 3, that an as-built plan certified by the applicant's engineer that the site was developed in substantial conformity with the approved plans be submitted to the planning board for review and approval prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit. So, field engineering, per the semi-final site inspection report prepared by field engineering, the following items are outstanding, in no order. Number 1, landscaping, plantings, and pavement markings on the binder need to be installed. Number 2, pervious surfaces need to be fine graded, loamed, and seeded. Portions of the side slopes may need additional seeding. Number 3, please note that the Cape Cod berm was installed instead of precast concrete curb shown on the design plans. Number 4, the existing wooden staircase and deck, existing utilities, and all components of the existing drainage and recharge system, must be shown on the final as-built plan. Outstanding items continued. Planning staff noted that there are retaining walls and an additional concrete wall and apron that weren't shown on the approved plans. Field engineering commented that the walkway and apron should not have any impact on the stormwater management system, but planning staff notes that the retaining walls may affect drainage. Lastly, there has been significant expansion of the crushed storm storage area by 11,800 square feet. The proposed perimeter black vinyl chain link fence has also not been installed. Given the addition of the retaining walls and the 11,800 square foot expansion of the crushed stone storage area, would the planning board consider requesting that the building department tell the applicant that they are required to submit a site plan amendment? To continue, a motion to approve the issuance of a temporary occupancy permit for 6 months is still recommended, given that the applicant addressed the outstanding requirements when weather permits in the spring.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
So you're recommending a 6-month temporary occupancy permit, even though there's a litany of outstanding issues, because these issues can't be addressed until the weather warms up? That's what you're saying, and you believe they will be taken care of?
That's correct, and we've also directed the attention of the building inspector to the expansion of the outdoor storage area. The outdoor storage area was granted a special permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals because it's located in the Aquifer Protection District. Expansion, I've advised the ZBA and the building inspector that expansion of that outdoor storage area should trigger the need for a modification to their special permit. And as well as I think that the additional outdoor storage areas and the retaining walls should come back to the planning board for a minor site plan amendment.
So the occupancy permit would expire in August, which should give them enough time to complete all of this work.
That's correct. That should give them enough time to address some of the some of the items that were identified in the field engineering report, as well as come and reapply or submit a modification to the Zoning Board of Appeals as well as the Planning Board.
Okay.
So, question, do they have to come before us for a modification?
I believe that they should, and that's my recommendation to the building inspector.
Okay. I mean, not only to the zoning board, but to us?
Correct.
Okay. For site plan review modification?
Correct.
Jim?
More questions?
No, I've just, I was on the board when they approved this plan, and I've watched what the applicant has built out there, and I think he's done an exemplary job. And I'm looking at this report, and they got caught up in the weather at the end. I mean, I think you paved right. I mean, you did an excellent job paving right when the weather was hitting, so they did a really good
Down to
job.
the T.
I would be inclined to give him a temporary occupancy permit until September, so that he would definitely have enough time to have significant grass growth and get the other stuff, and get the paperwork that he needs to do the amendment for the minor modifications that you made. I mean, I think,
So that'd be 7 months instead of 6.
yeah, just to get past the hot weather in July, just for the landscaping stuff, because I know he's got plans to do some real good landscaping out
Yeah.
there and everything, so, I mean, he lives on the site, it's his business, he's doing a good job.
Okay, so why don't you give us a motion?
I have a motion to give him a 7-month temporary occupancy permit so he can address his issues.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One thing I'd like to note about that is that it's the building inspector who will prepare the temporary certificate of occupancy, so we'll give him a 7-month recommendation. Right, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that it's not
We
the
don't have
planning
the
board.
authority to do
Right.
that, I understand. So, what does that mean for their amended site plan review? Should they be doing that in this interim?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And the same with the zoning board for the Aquifer
That's-
Protection District thing?
I think that would
That's up to them.
require finding from the building inspector, but it's been drawn to his attention.
Okay.
Who was the design engineer?
Steve Giosa,
He's not doing work anymore, so we would have to.
Yeah, but he's SciTech Environmental. He's working over there now, so you might want to go.
Yeah, we tried to reach out to him and it's
Yeah.
very hard to get.
Yeah, no, I understand, yeah.
So we got Farland that was there.
Okay, yeah, he could
Yeah,
probably,
Farland
yeah,
Group.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Next is Inheritance Lane. Endorse file number 23-023C-MOD modification. Endorse definitive subdivision decision.
At the last planning board meeting, the board voted to approve the waiver for underground utilities. So we have the decision for endorsement and the final plans in Mylar for the board to sign.
Okay.
we'll send this down and then we'll have you all sign the final plans and the Mylar at the end of the meeting.
At the end of the meeting. Perfect. While we're signing that, next is 202 Pine Hill Road, file number 19-012 SBA-LID-S as-built review. before you.
Okay. So, there's some outstanding items. Per SW Cole's report, the flared ends of the culvert crossings and the plunge pools should be checked for debris and silt buildup prior to final acceptance. The health of the required plantings and the whole site's vegetation should be reevaluated in the spring. The report noted that no paved runoff was observed. The main gate is missing proper signage indicating the property owner and emergency contact information. And lastly, the perimeter fencing, while installed at the approved height of 7 feet, deviated from the approved materials and utilized a farm-type fencing. As there are no regulations guiding fencing in Westport, planning staff is okay with the fencing change. If the planning board accepts the fence as installed, a reduction in the currently held surety amount of $100,000 to $20,000 is recommended. If the board determines that the fence be reinstalled, it is recommended to hold a surety of $75,000 for the remainder of the project.
So when they say farm-type fencing, they're talking about the pressure-treated wooden posts with the 6x6 grid?
That's correct. They were previously approved for chain link.
Well, the fencing has two functions, and I'm not sure which one is taking precedence here. I think one is to keep people out, and I'm not sure a farm fence keeps people out. And on the other hand, it's their place. If they're not concerned with vandalism or people stealing stuff, I don't know. And the other thing is to keep deer out, but I'm not sure even a 7-foot chain link fence would do that. What is your opinion?
Our opinion is that, I mean, you have to weigh two sides of it. Yeah, there's the security aspect of it, but all of the liability does fall on the operator of the site. I would say aesthetically, it blends a little bit better with the landscape, with the agricultural natural heritage of the town, as opposed to chain link fencing, which is more of a commercial industrial application of fencing. So I think those are the main criteria that you want to weigh. We're fine with it either way, and so is SW Cole. So it really just comes down to those two aspects.
Well, I guess the other part of that fencing question is this going to become an attractive nuisance for kids? And would they have some potential for being electrocuted or shot because they're fiddling with this stuff?
I mean, does the fence meet the specification on the design?
Aside from the materials, yes.
Well,
It does
that means
meet
it
the
doesn't meet the
spec?
specification.
Does, well, the solar bylaw does not regulate the type of material that you have to use for fencing. So they were approved on their site plan for chain link. However, the specifications for fencing at the time was that you only had to build up to a height of 7 feet. Now you have to provide a gap for small animals to pass under, but it meets the specs for what they were approved for at the time.
So I don't see the gap.
Right, and that's because they were approved at a time when we
Oh,
didn't
we didn't
require the
require the gap, so this is pre-gap.
gap. Correct.
With this kind of fence, I think there's all kinds of critters that can get right through it.
I'm just worried a little bit about life expectancy on a fence like this.
Probably the life expectancy of the solar array.
No, I'm doubting that, but
So,
I know pressure treated sounds great, but right at the line of the surface of the dirt, I'm just worried about how long it takes before those posts keel over. Anyway, so you guys are recommending that this fence is okay?
I'm not saying that I think it's okay. I mean, I think if the board really wants to ensure that there's a fence that is of a more durable material, as you said, I would be inclined to agree that this is not going to be as durable of a fencing. And also, it'd be harder to, I guess, try to break through the fencing as well if someone felt inclined to do so with chain link as opposed to what they have here. So if you're coming at it from a safety perspective, I would recommend the chain link.
Well,
is
it's
there any
required
kind
to have a fence, so if we get information that it's fallen over in places and it's an attractive nuisance, then I guess then it's up to the building inspector to enforce that the fence is repaired, right?
That's correct.
Is there any kind of specification in regards to solar arrays for a type of fence? I mean, because I'm a little bit concerned on the safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we have different things with underground electric where, you know, on a commercial property, you gotta encase it in concrete and so forth.
Right.
Just because this is commercial, I would think it would have to be a commercial grade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the solar bylaw does not, as I said, regulate materials, but considering that it was
What about
chain
the-
link on their approved plan, you can require that
What
they-
about the building inspector
What about the building inspector?
for the safety issue on the specifications of the fence?
I didn't get the opinion from the building inspector prior to the meeting.
I think if we okay this fence, this is the kind of fence we're gonna get with every solar array in the future, right? Because it's a lot cheaper than chain link. So we're gonna have to assume that if we okay this, then we're gonna get wooden fence posts and this kind of fence. And as our chairman said, it's more attractive because it is less visible, it's less of a visible intrusion on nature. But it also, I don't think it's gonna last as long, and the fence is there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
so what is the wishes of the board?
I'd be inclined to let the building commissioner take a look at it. I mean, they have a building permit on the site.
So, remind me again, we asked this question, but what was specified? Just any kind of fence?
On their approved site plan, it was chain link.
And I think if they said they were gonna do chain link, we should say, do what you said you were gonna do. And so, or Manny, do you want to say, let's get the superintendent's?
I mean, I can agree with you with that. I mean, it's on the plan, I mean, but they might be inclined to ask for recommendations from on the type and the gauge from the building commissioner. There might be something in the building code where it's a solar array.
Right,
Well, isn't the question before us the release of the surety?
Yes. So that we can release it two different ways.
Yeah, and
So-
and from my point, we approved a plan with chain link fence. The other arrays all have chain link fence around them. And they're asking for the release of the surety, and I think we should release the $25,000 amount and retain the $75,000 because the fence is not compliant.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
That's a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next up is continuation of the public hearing for Marcotte amendment and Marcotte rescission, file number 23-031C. Well, the first one is to consider rescission of a definitive subdivision plan, constructive approval for the definitive subdivision entitled Plan of Land at Assessor's Plat 52, Lot 20A, Westport, Mass., and located between 278 Drift Road and 312 Drift Road, map 52, Lot 20A.
This is the first time we've heard this project, right?
Okay, so we're also, at the applicant's request, considering an amendment to their constructed approval subdivision plan, which would, I would let do we have the applicant's engineer here to? So I'm opening both hearings, so we're gonna listen to them concurrently.
Understood. Good evening, Matt Pike with South Coast Engineering on behalf of the applicant. So before the board tonight to request to amend the constructively approved Marcotte subdivision plan dated 2/16/24. So if we recall, the 2/16/24 plan that proposed 9 lots with 7 waivers. And then just recently during the 12/17/24 hearing, the applicant agreed to modify the constructively approved plan to a later revision and to also further revise that revision to at least provide 20 to 25 feet of separation from the boundary line adjacent to Fallon Drive, from the layout, the proposed layout line to the boundary line adjacent to the Fallon Drive neighborhood, and also to address site distance concerns. So the modified 7-lot plan that's presented today, first was further reduced the amount of lots to 7. It also provides a 25-foot separation from the proposed layout to the shared boundary with Fallon Drive neighborhood. In addition to that, a traffic assessment has been completed to address the concerns related to the absence of a 25-foot radius at the Marcotte Drift intersection. I also have Jonathan Silverstein, the applicant's attorney, with me today, and also Randall Hott from VHB, who's performed the traffic assessment, if there's any questions related to that.
Okay, I think I would appreciate to hear from the traffic.
Good evening. Randall Hart, principal with VHB, and we just did a brief summary of several things for review of traffic here. We looked at exactly if there were any accidents on record in the Mass DOT accident portal to see if anything happened at this intersection in the past, and there was no record for the years that we reviewed. We looked at what the project would generate in terms of traffic generation at the site. We did so from the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, which is a standard in our practice. And based on that, we would anticipate approximately 12 trips in the morning, half in and half out. So it's one, every 4 minutes or 5 minutes. And then I think it was 8 in the afternoon, commuter peak hour. Those are the two time frames when the traffic from the site coupled with traffic already on its roadway is most critical. So that's what we looked at. And then we did an evaluation of site distance. We look at stopping site distance and we look at intersection site distance, two different things. And the minimum requirement for a project like this is that you meet the stopping site distance, and we not only meet it, we exceed it. We fall a little bit short on the intersection site distance, but there is an opportunity to improve on that, even though it's not a requirement. But looking both left and right coming out of the driveway, there is some clearing that can be done in the layout to the left, but on our property to the right, so we can open up those sight lines and improve greatly over what is there today. So there's a real opportunity to make that a better intersection as part of this program. So we just did a quick assessment. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
So, did you do a traffic study of Drift Road?
Again, we focused all our effort just on the driveway, just to look at safety review there. We looked at accidents, we looked at sight distance, and we looked at traffic generation. We didn't go up and down Drift Road and look at any other issues.
So we don't know how many cars are traveling on Drift Road in that area?
I do not know.
And we don't know how fast cars are going, even though it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone?
Yeah, it is a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and when I do sight distance evaluations, what I do is I look at the speed limit, and a lot of people just rely on that for the sight distance evaluation. What I also do to supplement that is I drive up and down the street several times at a comfortable rate of speed, and I get behind people to see what speed they're going at. And the comfortable rate of speed for me and getting behind people was around 35 miles per hour. Did I see people going faster than that? Sure. But I think the common denominator, the 3 trips that I made back and forth, was around 35. So that's what I used in my assessment, not the posted speed limit.
Okay, and so you're suggesting that we could, or you could, increase the sight lines by trimming the vegetation where?
So to the left, it would have to be in the roadway layout, not on private property. We couldn't do that. But looking right, there's a lot of vegetation, a few trees and a lot of vegetation on the property of the proponent. And that can all be removed and really open up that sight line from what's there today. So
To the north?
To the north, correct.
How about to the south?
There's some overhanging, trim or brush, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember the type of plant, but there's a big cluster of it that is in the layout that can be removed. And I provided, as part of the attachments to the memo that I did, pictures of me sitting in my car looking left and right, and I put a little circle around the areas where the clearing could occur.
We have that on here?
Mm-hmm.
You know what page?
I'm not sure what page it'll be in the
It's way in the
packets.
back. So this is looking left. There's a big cluster that's looks like it's in the layout there. That can be removed. That will certainly improve the intersection sight distance looking left. And then the next slide. Thank you.
Mhm.
This is, again, sitting in the car right at the stop bar would be, all that stuff you see can be removed and completely open up that sight line.
We cannot remove that, that's not a problem.
Yeah, you'll have a chance later. So, do you have the pictures, Michael, that I sent you?
I have the one you sent me.
So this is looking north, quite a bit before your intersection.
Yeah.
But the road is bending around
Right.
this spot.
Right.
And there's a big tree and trees blocking the view of
Right.
the northern part of Drift Road and this intersection.
Agreed.
Do you have another one?
That was the only one that you had sent me.
I sent you 3.
I didn't, sorry, I didn't get all of them.
If you refer back to the revised plans that were submitted approximately a week ago, we did further survey that's shown on the plan that outlines where the layout line is. where the vegetation is, and also marks in 100-foot intervals, the sight line.
Actually, we submitted one, Michael, that goes 300 feet down the street.
This, I don't know, so I'd received several different plan sets over the last couple of weeks. So this is the one that I just received from
So the roadway
Mr.
layout,
Souza.
the roadway layout
Which-
plan.
Which page is that?
I think it's sheet 5. Keep going, yep. Another one. There we go. So here you can see,
Sorry, I'm trying
yeah,
to get down to the.
So you can see the overhanging vegetation that was mentioned, that's outside, that's within the drift road layout line that could be trimmed, it's on town property.
And we measured that at 5.5 feet over the layout line in this area. So there's 5.5 feet of overgrowth that is on town property that the town has the right now to trim. The sight lines would be dramatically enhanced. And this is all, by the way, we did submit one that goes down 300 feet. Just when it goes before that curve.
If you zoom out a little more, you can see the 300, which in, there you go.
And so back to the traffic guy, the left-hand side of Marcotte, as it comes onto Drift Road, has a string of 120 feet of arborvitae.
Okay.
And that, I don't know if that's on your property or the neighbor's property.
On which side, Mr. Chairman?
It's half and half. You can see the outlays start approximately, I don't know, you're a couple feet to the east of the layout line, and then you have these rhododendrons that are overhanging by approximately 5
Do you want me to
feet.
zoom in?
But in the traffic report, Randy showed the photograph that the westernmost arborvitae, the one closest to the street, is not in the sight triangle of a car exiting there.
I saw that. So, from the traffic study standpoint, are you more concerned with cars entering Drift Road from Marcotte or cars turning into Marcotte?
So, as I mentioned, the stopping sight distance is met, and the stopping sight distance is related to vehicles on Drift Road, their ability to perceive, react, and stop if they see something in the roadway. So that's not an issue at all. I'd be more concerned about the exit than the entrance, but again, as I already said, the requirement is to meet the stopping sight distance, and it does today, even if you don't do any trimming. The trimming is there as a supplement to try to get as close to the ISD as we possibly can. We won't get there. There's there's not that many driveways or intersections in the state that meet ISD. It's really hard to meet with the new guidelines. So, and again, it's not a requirement. We do everything we can at every project we work on to try and meet it as close to it as we can, but we rarely get there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
No, sorry, I have a question
Yes, sir.
for traffic.
We have a question for you.
So you said you looked at the Mass Highway database for the accidents. Do the local PD report to the Mass Highway database?
Yeah, so the police departments go to Mass DOT usually. I find, having looked at both on a lot of occasions, that they rarely match perfectly. Usually DOT has more than the police department in some instances, but I found just the opposite on a job I did last week. The PD had very few and Mass Highway had a ton. So, yeah, I didn't go to the police department. I mean, that's something we could do if you
Yeah, I think
wanted
that
us
would be
to.
a good idea.
Yes, could you identify yourself for the record?
Of course. My name's Jonathan Silverstein. I'm the applicant's counsel. So I wanted to just follow up on what Randy and Matt just told you and just sort of update the board on some of the proposed conditions that the applicant would agree to if the board voted this evening to approve the modification. So first I wanted to mention at the last meeting, I want to follow up on some of the issues that were discussed at the last meeting, some of the things that the board asked us to look into. So first of all, there was a reference by our abutter to the south to an accident that took place as her tenant was exiting her property. So I just want to follow up on what Mr. Hart was just saying. So that was exiting this property where there's a 5.5-foot overhang that the property owner has allowed this vegetation right at that exit to overgrow into the public layout, almost to the paved roadway. So it's not surprising that this person would have very little ability to see what's coming. So I just wanted to note that fact. Our road is significantly beyond there, and we're proposing to clear the vegetation back to the layout line, which would create much better sight lines. And even though we already meet what's required, we would and exceed it, we would even by more exceed it. Also, we're proposing to raise the grade to create that level approach to the intersection that your rules and regulations require. So that also is going to improve sight distance, because obviously cars are going to be up higher, they're going to be able to see better. The board asked us to approach the Conleys, who own the property to the south, and see if we could acquire rights to meet the radius for the layout of the road. Again, we meet the radius for the constructed road. You wanted us to see if we could meet the radius for the layout of the road. So two things I wanted to note. Again, Mr. Hart went out there and reported to the board. It has what would be within that radius doesn't impact. It's not what's limiting sight distance. What's limiting sight distance is this overgrown vegetation much further down the street on the Connolly's property. So having that radius would literally contribute nothing to making the intersection safer. And what will contribute to making the intersection safer is something that we can do without any approval. Nevertheless, we took to heart what the board asked us to do, and unfortunately the demand was for 60,000 square feet plus one of the subdivision lots in order to get a couple 100 square foot easement for a layout radius. Now we could do that. We could give them 2 lots and have a waiver-free proposal and go back up to 9 lots. I don't think that's what the board wants. It wouldn't contribute in any way. All it would do would be to give a windfall to the Connollys, and it wouldn't in any way improve the safety, and you would now have 9 lots there instead of 7. So I wanted to report back to the board on those conversations. We really tried hard. We made an offer that for a couple 100 square feet of easement on a portion of their property that they don't use at all would have been very beneficial to them, but what they demanded we just couldn't provide. So unless you want us to go back to 9 lots with a waiver-free by right subdivision, which I'm assuming the board would not like to see. I did have some conversations with town council, and I proposed some conditions that if the board approved this modification, we would agree to tonight. So if I could just briefly run through those.
Please.
So the first, of course, is that we would agree to abide by this new plan instead of the constructively approved 9-lot plan, which was approved constructively with a number of waivers. So there would be no sidewalks, there would be no level approach to the intersection, there would be a number of other changes. I think Mr. Daler had asked us to make a number of changes to the drainage system, which we made in subsequent revisions. None of that would be in the constructively approved plan, but we've agreed to make all those changes, and that we would be bound by all of that, as well as moving the road 25 feet from the property line and reducing from 9 to 7 lots. Now, one thing that my client suggested that I frankly had not thought of and isn't in my email to Mr. Blake, but I'll put it on the table, is that because we've reduced the lots from 9 to 7, a couple of the lots are large enough to be duplex lots. That's not our intent, and we would agree also to add a condition that no duplexes would be allowed on the lots, even the ones that meet the requirements. In addition, I saw in the staff memo that the revised plan shows a trench within 10 feet of the boundary line. We would certainly accept a condition that that trench needs to be moved at least 10 feet away from the boundary line to comply with the subdivision rules and regulations. We would, as I said, we would agree to trim back all the vegetation to the surveyed layout of the road, which is going to improve safety dramatically, not only for residents of the subdivision, but for the town vehicles that use this access to get to the town land, and just the traveling public along that roadway. And then, in addition, though, I would note that I don't think any other applicant who has received a waiver of the fillet radius requirement has conducted or provided their own traffic expert's report, and we have, and I don't think anyone could gainsay what Mr. Hart has explained to the board, but we would be willing to have a vote to approve contingent on field engineering, the board's peer reviewer, measuring and confirming this site distances that Mr. Hart just told you about. Because one of the things that Mr. Blake had mentioned was that there might be a desire just to confirm that data with the town's own peer reviewer. So we would agree to that. We don't want to continue and then come back, because frankly this has been a long, costly, and time-consuming process, but we would agree that a vote tonight to approve would be contingent on field confirming that the site distances meet those requirements as set forth in the AASHTO, the Green Book. So we feel like we don't want to just go and build the 9-lot subdivision that we have. We think this is a better plan. We really do feel like we've been trying to work collaboratively and provide a lot more information than a lot of other applicants have been asked for or would ask for, and that we've made a lot of concessions. And with that, I would just ask the board to approve the plan with those conditions tonight. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, first of all, in our conversations with town council, I think that, and you can confirm, that we talked about getting our own traffic consultant to go over your traffic consultant's report and do a peer review. And what you're suggesting is having our regular consulting engineer do that.
You want me to speak to that?
Please.
So again, no other applicant has ever been asked to provide anything close to this level, the level of detail that we've been asked, that we have voluntarily provided. So I want to step back. What was raised was one or two members of the board expressed concern about the tree and the stone wall on the corner. So we could have stopped by saying the tree and the stone wall on the corner don't impact sight lines, because that's the only thing that's impacted by the waiver we're asking for. But we went beyond that. We measured sight distance all the way down the road, and we demonstrated that we meet it. And we came up with ideas on how to even improve upon what's already there. This is a 7-lot residential subdivision. I have never seen any board in my 30 years of experience demand a peer-reviewed full traffic study for a 7-lot subdivision where no other applicant has ever had to do that. And frankly, this feels sometimes like a game of whack-a-mole. What was pressed as the biggest concern up until the board originally voted to deny was the road being a perimeter road. Hardly any discussion about concerns about safety. And then there was, at the very last meeting, one offhand comment about that tree. The tree has no impact on sight distance. We come in, we propose a reduction in density, we propose moving the perimeter road, and then we go well beyond that just to settle concerns that people have expressed about the safety of this intersection. And we demonstrate that it's safe with a very well-recognized traffic expert showing you that. Now we're being asked to pay who knows how many thousands of dollars and wait how long. Why do we want Field to do it? Because Field's already familiar with the project, they're already on board. You don't have to go out and bid and find another traffic expert. And I can tell you these traffic experts, A, they're expensive, and B, they take a long time. So now we're gonna have to wait months more and pay $10,000 or whatever it is to study something that no other applicant in town has provided close to as much detail as we've provided or information. When we could just go back and build a 9-lot subdivision. But it's not what we want to do. I really feel like, Mr. Chair, we've shown a lot of flexibility, a lot of collaboration, but no, we don't want to spend months and thousands of dollars on a full traffic study of all of Drift Road for a 7-lot subdivision, because frankly, no one else has ever had to do that, and it's unfair, and it feels retaliatory. And I'm sure that's not your intent.
We've heard this for a while now, for the last 5 minutes. I'm just relating what was related to me by our town council, that this is what you were agreeing to. I didn't know that it was Field Engineering specifically. Don't know if that's a problem. I'm gonna ask the planners if they are capable of doing that. I don't know. But I'm just relaying to you what I thought was part of the deal.
Well, I can read you the email I sent to him, which is...
I don't care what you sent to him.
Okay.
What he relayed to us verbally was that we would have somebody do a traffic study to compare. And going on and on about it is not helpful.
Fair enough.
All I want to know is field engineering capable of deciphering this traffic study and giving us a clear opinion?
Mr. Riccio's background, from my understanding, is predominantly in civil engineering and not traffic engineering. I don't know if there's anyone else at the firm who can, or if he's just a single person operation. I don't have an answer to that question.
I mean, I can tell you, and maybe Matt can speak to it, what we've presented is a measurement of site distance, which I think a civil engineer could confirm, but
Yes, so I just, traffic is a field within the civil engineering field, and I think, although Randy is absolutely an expert in this field, some of these calculations to determine site distance can easily be performed by most any civil engineer.
Thank you.
My concern would be that we're in litigation, and field engineer is one of the peer reviewers that we use all the time. And I would suggest that we use a different peer review.
Say that again, man.
Well, we're in litigation over this, and field engineering is one of the peer reviewers that we use all the time. And, you know, this whole thing's happened because of a technicality, and I think maybe we should have a peer review of somebody that has no, I don't know if you want to use skin in the game, but normally when you go peer review, they can have nothing to do with what's going on with the town.
So can Cole do
independent.
this?
We do have two other peer reviewers that we used for different projects, SW Cole and MBL Land Development as well.
And George Mello still with Cole?
Derek Mello.
Derek.
Correct,
Mello.
yes.
George was his father, I guess. So, okay. Comments, questions from the board?
sorry, if it makes that much of a difference, I think I can speak for my client that if you want to use someone else, what we don't want to have happen is A, scope creep, and B, a long delay. But if you want to substitute a different, one of the other two firms that the planner just mentioned in the language of my proposed condition, then I'm happy to, I think I can represent for my client that we would agree to that. But again, it would be, what we're looking for is a vote to approve tonight contingent on that confirmation.
So I have a quick
Yeah,
question.
sure, go ahead.
I didn't quite get the issue on the sidewalks. What you negotiated, is what you negotiated with our council that there will be sidewalks or won't be sidewalks?
I'm sorry, I'll clarify. So this plan eliminates all of the waivers that were requested in the original proposal, except one, being the 25-foot layout radius on the south. The original plan had 8 or 9 waivers, including they didn't want sidewalks, and there were a number of other things. So yes, there will be sidewalks.
Okay.
Everything that we've done to eliminate all of the waivers except one is in this plan.
So there will be sidewalks?
Yes.
Thank you. So, this is a public hearing, and I'm looking forward to public comment on this. I think, you know, we've had so many meetings on this over a considerable period of time, but, and my memory isn't what it used to be, and not that it was ever any good, but I think the issue of safety has always been uppermost in people's minds. It's not the only thing, but it's always been paramount. And so And as I said, I think at the last meeting, at least the way I look at it, it's not about really how many cars go there. It's about one car. One car, and I agree with the traffic engineer, exiting. You know, what's that like when you exit? And you know, 35 miles an hour, not sure I buy that, but I do think that your approach to this, which is improving sight lines, is on the mark. I think that's what you need to do. And I commend you for figuring out how, whether it's elevating the road to look over rocks or cutting down an arborvitae or the brush to lengthen to 300 feet, which is a football field, which you know is the standard unit of measure in America, right? A football field, is the way you improve safety. And I agree with you that going to 9 lots and no waivers so you can do that isn't what I'm looking for. And I appreciate the willingness to keep thinking of ways to get. I mean, we suggested, could you go to 4? This isn't 4, you know. I didn't do all that well in math, I know, but 7 isn't 4. I appreciate your moving the road away from the boundary, but this is about safety, and I think working on those sight lines to get the ability to look further down the road, especially to the south, is the way to improve every time one person with a kid in the back is approaching Drift Road from that driveway. And I think that's, you know, that you're working on what I consider to be the most essential aspect of this problem.
Anybody else? So I would open it up, and it's a public hearing. We are going to ask you to stay within 5 minutes. And we need your name and address so that Nadine can write it down for the record. And I'd be happy to hear questions or comments. Yes, sir.
I'm David Dorsky. I live at 11 Fallon Drive. I'm in a butter. And what I want to talk about is the traffic memo, the traffic report, because I take great issue with it. And I think it presents a very deceptive message, and it's meant to deceive you into thinking that allowing this intersection to be created will be okay and safe for the community. First thing I want to say is that the volume of traffic is greatly underestimated by the report. It doesn't take into account the fact that the town accesses the town pit through the same intersection. And sometimes the volume of traffic with large trucks, which I hear from in my bedroom, frankly, but sometimes the traffic to the town pit is quite large. And furthermore, even if there are only 7 residences, there's going to be a lot more than 9 or even 12 exits during peak morning hours. There will be school buses, there'll be school children, there'll be pedestrians, there'll be bicycles. So that aspect of the traffic report I consider grossly inadequate and frankly deceptive. Secondly, I'd like to address the sight distances. And I've actually attempted to understand and study this. I'd like to see my Michael.
Mr. Chairman, will you allow the
Is it
submission of
okay if I?
additional?
What are you showing?
I'd like to show a PDF of a chart that I've created with data.
Okay.
If you go to page 19 of my PDF. Go back. Go back one
A
more.
page?
Okay, so the audience is clear and the board is clear about the difference between the stopping distance and the intersection sight distance. And this is data, information from a federal website that still exists, actually, hasn't been deleted. But the intersection sight distance is the minimum distance needed so that a mainline motorist will not have to substantially reduce their speed due to turning vehicles. It's not a question of stopping, it's a question of minute to minute having to alter your path. Next slide, please. Now this is again, from the AASHTO, the Green Book, but it's posted on the Federal Highway Administration website. And this is the data that the engineer used for 35 miles an hour. And it shows that the stopping distance that he quoted is 250 at 35 miles an hour, and its design intersection sight distance at 35 miles an hour would be 390 feet. Now, the speed that he chose to perform his analysis was 35 miles an hour, and he based that on, 3 trips on Drift Road. I've traveled on Drift Road maybe 8,000 times. And I can tell you that the speed on that road is rarely as slow as 35 miles an hour. And every 5th driver has a handheld. So I run, I bike, I walk, and I drive on this street, and I know that the speeds are great. And this takes into account a dry road, an alert driver, no handhold. Furthermore, there's a lot of motorcycle traffic. Motorcycles need 18% more distance to stop, according to this website. Furthermore, there are trucks. Trucks require even more stopping distance and more intersection sight distance. So I just want to make it clear that the speed that they chose to perform this analysis is an underestimate. And look how it changes. At 45 miles an hour, it's 500 feet. Next slide, please. Okay, he used a method where he drove up and down the street, 3 times? It's not 35 miles an hour. It's more like 40 miles an hour. And I think it's a gross underestimate. Next slide, please. Go ahead, please. Okay, here. This is his data. At 35 miles an hour, northbound 250, southbound 250, that's from his data. Intersection sight distance at 35, it's 390. Measured 290. If you go to 40 miles an hour, the stopping sight distance is approaching the limit. And traffic moves at 40 miles an hour, usually on that road. From the south, it's a little bit better. The intersection sight distance, which is really the standard, not the stopping sight distance.
Could you speed it up because you're
We're
over
at-
5 minutes already?
I'm almost done. At 40, it's 445. It's grossly different. So if you allow this to take place, you're going to be creating an intersection that's going to be inconvenient for people to drive on, and it's going to create a dangerous situation. So please, for the sake of the community and for the sake of the safety of the community, don't let this happen. Rescind the 9 residents' proposal and don't approve any proposal that creates this dangerous intersection.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Jim, could I speak to the point of the motorcycle situation? I mean, I could agree with the direct abutter. I've ridden the motorcycle my whole life. I use that route because my wife prefers not to be on the highway. I've traveled through there many times, coming back from the fair and when there's a lot of traffic. The situation with the truck, I've seen that type of accident. I had a boyfriend of my daughter that was killed in Dartmouth when he was on his motorcycle and he passed the truck that was going to turn. The truck stopped from the turn and somebody came out of the intersection and killed him. So, and then there was another fatality a year later, the same situation in Dartmouth. So I've seen that.
Okay, yes?
Chair, members of the board, my name is Jake McGuigan, 397 Drift Road. Nothing really changes since I've spoken here in the past in front of the board. I think my only concern is the discussion of trimming along private property owner. I think if you traveled up and down Drift Road, the highway department would be quite busy moving stone walls and trees and branches and various other things that might fall within the road layout. I think you could spend a lot of time doing that. So I'm a little concerned with the precedent you're setting by, or would set if you're starting to go onto private property owners' land to trim trees in order to allow a development to go into place in order to increase the safety. So I just found that a little bit concerning. The other issue I did find concerning is it's a sort of a veiled threat with respect to the 7-house lot and 9-house lot, essentially telling you guys that, well, if we do a 7-lot plan, there are 2 lots that could become duplexes, essentially then becoming back to a 9-house lot subdivision. So a little concerned with that. I continue to hear the concern with costs and the costs associated with this development. I think I don't need to remind anyone that this purchase of this parcel of land was originally believed to be unbuildable and sold for about $350,000. Again, we're in a situation where a $350,000 house lot, or unbuildable lot, excuse me, is now being converted into a 9-house lot or 7-house lots with 2 duplexes. So again, that does not change anything from the past, but just my concern is some points that I thought needed to be addressed just through that presentation tonight. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Anybody else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sonia Connolly. We own the property on the next door, 312. And we send a proposal that we think that the road will be safe. And if they accept our proposal, I think the road will be large enough for the entrance. But if they don't accept our proposal, the way he said that we have the stone wall, we planted the trees, and we don't want that to be interrupted. Okay.
Good, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so I would like to just recapitulate where we are. I believe we still have a court issue or not?
We have a court case
Yep.
that's appealing what was a denial.
Right.
Subsequently, there was some research done, and the applicant determined that there was a constructive approval. As a result, they recorded a subdivision plan that they believed was constructively approved. As a result of that, we noticed a rescission hearing.
Jeff, could I ask you to talk to the microphone so people can hear you? Could you, I'm sorry, if you could start once again?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeffrey Blake. I'm your town council. You had asked whether or not there was a court case out there. And I said, yes, there is. If you recall, about back in July, I believe it was, you denied a subdivision approval for a project. After you denied that, they appealed it to the land court. And after doing some research, the applicant found that you had missed the deadline and that there had been a constructive approval. As a result, the applicant recorded with the Registry of Deeds that plan that was constructively approved. My recollection is the plan shows, I think it's 9 lots and 6 waivers.
Right.
So as a result of that, you noticed and held a hearing to rescind the constructive approval. At that last hearing, we were here, we went back and forth, I think you guys know, we went back and forth with council. You had indicated that there may be some way that we could make it all go away, if you will. As a result, I have been back and forth with council, and council has provided to you, presented to you tonight with his engineers, exactly what they propose to make this all go away.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Could you explain what the deadline was that we missed?
Yeah, under the subdivision control law, you had 135 days to make a decision. You can extend that deadline. However, in order to do that, you have to do it in writing, filed with the town clerk.
And we missed it.
And there was no writing filed with the town clerk.
But the applicant agreed to the continuance. And I think we had their signature on that, but that's beside the point.
You had your
We have a clerical error that is where we are now.
You had your signature on at least one.
Yeah.
I think there were others that perhaps there wasn't.
So I think the reason for our denial was the safety issue entering Drift Road. And their traffic engineer has done a study and confirmed for them that there is enough sight line, almost up to the standards. And as you saw in the picture that I had them show up, the speed limit on the road is 30 miles an hour. And although I know around here everybody drives fast, I don't think that we would prevail in court by denying this because we're concerned about people going faster than 30, even though it's posted right there, it's 30. I don't know what anybody else thinks. I'm only one person, but I am inclined to go with this, with the provision that we continue the rescission hearing until we're done. And we won't be done until our consulting engineer goes over the traffic study. So I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Mr. Chairman, I agree where we are here now. Where we are is that they have recorded the 9-lot subdivision that has a poor drainage solution, doesn't have sidewalks, does all of those things. And it has a lousier intersection. So that's what's there. And we can pick a fight to rescind that and go to court. And, you know, I've been in court on matters like this, and And I think, I think we're likely to hear from the judge, well, have your police force enforce the speed limit. The idea that we have a traffic engineer that used reasonable assumptions, looked at traffic. I know it's 3 times, and I live on Drift Road, and I live right next to a gravel lane that comes up from the river. So, we have a good sense of what it's like here. And I think what they've done is the idea that there are people who drive faster than the speed limit. If that becomes the standard, then virtually we would never approve any subdivision here in the town because people speed. And by the way, our rules and regulations don't enforce traffic. They enforce safety, they enforce health and safety, but they don't enforce speeding. So we have a traffic report. It shows that at slightly over the speed limit, they have safe distances. And what's, I think, and they're willing to do some clearing to improve sight distances. But I think most importantly, which hasn't been discussed, is that when they change the grade here, right now, like a lot of these roads, it comes up steeply to the intersection, and so you're essentially looking in the sky as opposed to being able to look down the road because of the angle of the car. And by I've just looked at it, 50 feet. They've actually raised the grade 3 feet. So if you think of when the rear end of the car is up another 3 feet, your level, your ability to look down the road, all has improved. And just the pure happenstance of the way this road was laid out, it left a right angle intersection at the road so they couldn't do a rounding. But for that, this is what they propose now is compliant with our rules and regulations. I think to deny this and go and pick a fight, we're going to end up with a lousier plan and 9 lots, and that's not what is in the interest of the town.
Mr. Chair, I agree a lot with what Bob Daler has said. I would add that there already is, as several people have mentioned, traffic on the road because the road goes to town land. And I think the reality is there are a couple of ways that this parcel gets developed for 9 lots. One is that we lose in court. The other is that, they make a deal with the abutter and come in with no waivers and 9 lots as he laid out. And so I've dealt a lot in my career with a world that is filled with non-ideal situations and where you're trying to pick the lesser of 2 evils. And I see this as, one of those situations. And I think if we can get something that is better than 2 very possible outcomes that both are 9-lot subdivisions, and we know what we're getting, and it's better than both of those, then I think that is worth taking seriously. So I think that I don't know what, Mr. Chair, you want to do in terms of confirming or having one of our engineers, whether it's Cole or which one you want to use to confirm. But I think we've come a long way to figuring out what the answer is and getting Cole or however you want to do that to confirm the traffic part of it. But I think we're, about at the end.
Yeah, I think we are too. The only, I have a question for the engineer, and I don't know if anybody else has looked at this, but the right-of-way for the town to access their property now comes into the 25-foot setback, as opposed to just crossing where the road is abutting the property. And could you explain the thinking behind that?
I think it's on sheet 1. Oh, yeah. So what's the question?
On the adjacent sheet, you show a connection on the,
Well, in mine, it's sheet 1.
sheet 3 of 10.
So why the connection is there?
Instead of where the road abuts the property.
Yeah, there's a connection
the-
shown there.
The existing is here, correct? So you would rather come in here, is that what you're?
No. You show it right near that
I
corner.
show it coming right into the street.
Right. But further down, the property abuts the road. Is there any reason why you just don't put
This
it
is
there?
the existing entry to the property.
I know that, that's
Yeah.
not my question. Is there a reason why you couldn't connect it where the road really abuts the town property?
We could absolutely look into that. I was just figuring we're gonna maintain the existing gravel way that's here, so we took it there and then connected it to the road at a 90, so they can take a right-hand turn to get out.
If the town wants us to do, we can't do it unilaterally,
Right.
but if the town, I think it's DPW who uses that, if they would rather come in at a different place, we'll work with them.
It was
for
just
that.
a question of, wouldn't it make more sense? I don't know if it makes more sense or not. I'm not an engineer, but it seems like.
The only thing that I'm doing here is I'm maintaining the access, because there's a prescriptive easement for
Right.
the town to connect through there. So I didn't change where you're entering into your property, I just maintained it.
But we certainly would have no issue with working with the town if they prefer a different access.
Okay. So what I would envision is somebody make a motion to perhaps approve with a condition that our consulting engineer verifies the results of the traffic engineer. And to continue the rescission hearing to a time certain in the future. In the case that the traffic study is not borne out.
Mr. Chairman, there are a couple of additional conditions that need to be added to that. So applicant shall trim the vegetation along Drift Road within the town layout, and the infiltration trench along the the northerly boundary in the direction of the Fallon Drive neighborhood will be moved 10 feet from the property line. Also, there was a condition that Council Silverstein had offered to the board that no lot would be used for a duplex. I don't know what is the board's position on that.
I think that's important. So,
Okay, so the board is inclined to have that as a condition. Okay, we'll include it.
Chairman, does this require two motions? One to continue the rescission?
Yes,
Okay.
so we should do that first.
I move that we continue the rescission hearing.
To,
We need a, can you pull up our calendar? Can you pull up, yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I could very quickly, that motion that the planner just read out, that would also be, of course, subject to the town allowing them to cut to trim in the town plan.
Sure.
To do what?
To trim.
Yeah,
so-
We've asked them to trim, but obviously if the town says no,
yeah.
we
Okay.
can't put that in.
And do we, we've got two public hearings going on. Do we keep the rescission hearing open then?
yeah, we continue.
Yes, and
Yeah,
the motion
we're
is to
continu-
continue it.
We continue that public hearing.
And we need to continue that so that we can hear back from the engineers that they agree with the traffic site distances.
Correct. So do we have a date?
There is March 11th and March 25th. I think I would prefer March 25th in order to get the study over and reviewed, and we'll have to get a contract together with that consultant.
Okay, that gives you 6 weeks.
What are you saying, March
Okay.
25th?
Otherwise, the next meeting date is April 22nd. We only have one meeting scheduled, so I think
It
the
should be as
25th.
soon as possible, but with time for the consulting engineer to
Right.
do his work.
I think a month and 2 weeks is adequate time.
Is that okay with the applicant?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Okay, so. I'd
6:15 on March 25th.
I move that we continue the rescission hearing to March 25th at what time again?
6:15.
6:15.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next would be the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the, pending the result of the peer review of the traffic study, I move that we approve the subdivision as agreed to this evening with the conditions just read by the town engineer and agreed to by the applicant,
Town planner.
with the town planner.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Should it say
Got promoted or something.
the amended subdivision?
Excuse me? The amended subdivision.
Yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
I just have a comment. Like, we have the property side, so if they don't agree what we propose, we're not gonna let them cut our trees or make a trench in our property.
I don't think,
Because it's a stone wall.
I don't think that they would touch your property, but the highway department can trim trees back to your property line if your trees are hanging over the road right away.
No, they're not hanging, they're in the property, it has a stone wall. And that road is so narrow that fits only one car on the way down. When you drive, fits only one car. I don't see how can you make that wide to fit
It's
two
talking
cars.
about on Drift Road, not on the side of your
No, I
property.
say Mark, yeah, the paper road is right there.
But
When you drive, you can only drive one car, you cannot drive two cars because it's so narrow.
I'm not talking about the road that they are going to put in, but on Drift Road, if your trees or bushes are hanging over the road, the town can trim those back to the property line.
Yeah, we trimmed already a little bit, but
Right.
the trees are in our property, are like in my side, it has a stone wall, and then the trees are here. And that's why we don't allow them to do a trench right on the side there, because all these stone walls gonna fall, and then we don't want them to touch our property.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe, you know, I abstained. You know I abstained.
Okay, the planner's report.
Okay, an update on our coastal zone management grants. So last night, Dia and I went to the select board's meeting to get approval for them to create a coastal management.
Thank you. Huh?
You guys don't need me for anything else?
I don't think so.
Good. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, good seeing you guys.
We asked for the select board to create a barrier beach management planning committee, and they created that committee. It'll consist of property owners from Atlantic Avenue, Beach Avenue, East Beach Road, someone from the beach committee, and someone from the select board. We didn't appoint anyone yet, although Sean Leach, Kevin Kurt, and probably someone from the land trust will be recommended, and we're waiting on someone from Atlantic Avenue. And someone to confirm from the select board too. But this is for the barrier beach management planning that we're doing with Woods Hole Group. And right now they're working on developing the base level conditions assessment, doing field work and data analysis to develop the existing conditions plan. So we don't have any public meetings scheduled for it yet. We will have a lot of different opportunities for public engagement in more informal settings that we're going to be doing with Serped, as well as some formal workshops and some committee meetings as well. But the formal committee meetings, I think, will only be 3 or 4. Most of them will be in a more informal, interactive setting. Next is an update on our, last week I submitted with Buzzards Bay Coalition an application to the Buzzards Bay Watershed Municipal Program mini grant. It's a $69,000 grant request to continue the engineering of the cold water stream culverts at Cornell Road at Angeline Brook and Drift Road at Lions Brook and Snell Creek. So we've been trying to cobble together various funding sources to continue getting these engineering designs together, and they should be advancing through preliminary to final within the next year. One thing to note is that if you're traveling up on Drift Road next week between Hicksbridge and the head of Westport or Cornell Road, just watch out because there will be road work or workers on the sides of the roads and a police detail because we're going to start doing geotechnical borings for that project.
On Cornell Road and on Drift Road?
Yeah, it'll be going on all throughout next week. And we'll put a notice on the town's website too.
All right.
Quick update on our online permitting. It's been a long time coming, but we finally have a go live date for the building department, which will be next week.
Wow.
It'll go live on Monday, but we won't be working, so for the holiday.
Birthday.
Yeah. So it'll be live on Tuesday. Next will be the Board of Health, and then the fire department. I don't know exactly when planning is planned on being incorporated, but eventually we'll be on there.
You're not dragging your feet, are you?
No, I think they just have a process that they follow. And
Okay.
All right, and then lastly, I don't know if anyone else had any comments on our housing production plan. Jim, I am going to incorporate those comments from you and David Cole about the residential tax exemption. And then I know there were some comments. The glossary, and also making it a little bit more visually accessible too, with the graphs and figures, making the colors a little bit more
and a little less
Legible.
jargon, right?
Little less dark.
Jargon.
Jargon. Oh, less. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
but
right.
the graphs need more contrasting colors.
Yeah. So if this is just the last call for comments, if you think of anything within the next couple of weeks,
I thought it was really good.
but we're gonna get those final touches on it, and then we'll get it published.
I
I
thought it
think
was
it came out great.
really good. Can I add one thing? I think I sent you and our chairman press release on a bill filed by Senator Mark Montigny and Representative Chris Markey, setting up a commission on wastewater that'll be chaired by 2 members of the legislature to kind of look at methods of funding wastewater, where they will seek to get, among others, a rep from every town, I think, appointed by the select board, Manny. And so this will try and identify all forms of sources of funding. In the Cape, they're using taxes on hotels, VRBOs, and so on to fund wastewater. And it's bringing in,
Money.
because it's the Cape, a lot of money for wastewater. So it's something to think about, because, you know, Westport will have one person. And you think about the whole Route 6 kind of stuff. And
Well, they're starting to move forward now is the PFAS. So they're looking at it at the drinking water, but the next step is they're looking at the sewage.
yeah,
So it's gonna be the same thing, and we're not gonna be,
So,
these systems are gonna need to
you
have.
know, I think there are 2 things to think about is who's the person in Westport who knows the most about the costs and so on of all the different kind of wastewater issues, and then who's the person who has the thickest armor, because it's going to be involved in raising various forms of taxes, and whoever it is will be associated with, oh yeah, this person was talking about raising what tax?
Somebody that doesn't wanna get reelected.
That sounds like a job for John.
I knew you didn't say that.
He speaks from experience.
That's what I mean. So, just to add to that, with SERPID, we are having discussions back and forth with SERPID and the MWRA. And we hope to have a meeting with 2 of their representatives in the very, very near future and talk about this. Basically, not the money, but the doing. How do you do this? So, and could you do it as one entity or 5 entities for the different watersheds we have in this area?
But I think it's really good because the whole idea of the commission is this is something that is totally beyond the ability of towns to pay for. And therefore, the state has to figure out how you go out and get federal and other money to help towns pay for this kind of infrastructure.
Not just in loans, you need grants.
You need loans and grants.
Mr. Chair. I got a couple of things as Michael does his plans report, and some things that we should be looking at in the future. Kind of one of the things that's come to my attention since I've been on the planning board and now the select board, and we're talking about these intersections, you know, and kind of the issues we've had with Mass Highway access permits and so forth. So last year, before I got right when I first got on the select board, and we had Ann Boxler was one of the selectmen. So she had requested that highway go up on the ball fields on 177 and trim back the roads. you know, we got the kids using up ball fields and everything now. So I happen to see Highway doing it, and I go there, and when I get there, they didn't even have a stop sign coming out of the ball field. And I've looked in it, the town actually has a subdivision plan for that roadway. So I really think that we need to look into that plan and see if we have the same scenario as some of these other subdivisions that are going on. I'm just kind of concerned, they don't even have power down there. And, you know, we've been running broadband cable, and I don't know why we don't provide power on this subdivision road that the town owns. I mean, there's an independent nonprofit that runs the ball fields, but it's all town-owned property, and there's a town-owned subdivision, and we're not doing anything on it. So I think it might be something that Michael can look into.
Mhm.
And then one last thing is I've had some conservation issues on my property that I had with a budding subdivision that put water onto my property that I've been working through over the last 12 years. But in looking into that, I come across the Bread and Cheese Brook Hemlock Gutter, which I believe it blew out in 2012. There was a dam that let go upstream. And now, I mean, I think probably we can have the land trust look at this, because they just took Mike Ferry's field and they put an APR, and that wetland that's just upstream of the Hemlock Gutter is under land trust jurisdiction, I guess. So when it blew out, the highway surveyor at the time, Jack Sisson, repaired it. We didn't file an order of conditions, we didn't do any design work, and now I'm looking at the culvert. They have a culvert there that's above the grade. They just put a pipe back in. As we know, the Rivers and Streams Act, we need bottomless culverts.
Yep.
So, I mean, by them not filing what they needed to do with DEP, and my concern is, like, when we look at the residents, the town needs to do the same thing that the residents need to do. And like I always look at you as a mentor. One of my other mentors told me that when I first got on there, Tony Vieira, and he said, you know, looking at when the highway's doing the work, and said, you know, you have to follow the rules just like everybody else does. So the town needs to follow the rules just like everybody else does. I mean, this is kind of this area too. I mean, when you look at the drainage, so some of the problems with all my neighbors up that way is from the Macumber School to Hemlock Gutter. There is no drainage. It all goes down. So that road's been repaved. And as the water from there runs off, like I only have 18-foot frontage on Gifford Road.
Yep.
When I got there was an historic farm road all the way down. It went all the way to Charlotte White to Dartmouth, where they ran animals back in the olden days. So I made the berm and stopped the water from coming down Gifford Road. But that's what's happened all the way down in that subdivision that's affecting me. That's what happened there. And then they built the subdivision and blocked the flow and dumped it into the uplands. But I'm just looking at and I tried before they paved to say we need to do some kind of drainage at Hemlock Gutter. So as we're looking for these new projects and grant money, I think, and I'm sure Ross Moran will agree, that's a major resource area that we need to look into.
I agree it is. I think there's so many places like that in Westport. Because, you know, on, what's the road that goes from Bedford North up through Fall River? Can't remember the name of it, but anyway, the stormwater from across the road up on the hills comes across that road and into people's property. And the town, years and years ago, put a pipe, takes it to the back of their property, but dumps it on their property without an easement.
Of course.
That was Mouse Mill's problem too. It was the same kind of situation with it. But I mean, on the north side of 177, it's a little worse than on the south side. And, you know, these small lots that, you know, all these non-compliant lots that we have over there, it's only getting exasperated with the septic repairs. I mean, we got all these dead-end streets, it's blocking the drainage. There is no drainage. My opinion also, I mean, the Hemlock Gutter, it's not even on our MS4. I mean, I don't know why it's not on our MS4. It's a direct discharge into the Bread and Cheese Brook.
Because there's no places that are made, that the water goes, it just goes,
Right.
right? That's why it's not, yeah, there's no catch basins. So, we need a town engineer.
We got a scup at it, I think that's what we got. You know, then you take the dead-end streets on the other side, and they dump it right in too. I know Mass Highway's getting ready to address all this stuff on Route 6, but, I mean, we need to partner up with them and try to fix all that stuff. Not to give you more work, Michael.
No, I mean, this is good because periodically there are different grant opportunities that come up for stormwater improvements, and I'll send out an email to folks saying, hey, you know, where are places that we could target? And I don't often get a great response, so I think this is a good start.
Well, I think, you know, when we're looking at the health of the river, we need to look at the head, you know, and the Bread and Cheese Brook and all of those tributaries that go in Trout Pond and all of that stuff.
Right.
And we need to, as a town, any of our projects, we need to follow the Rivers and Streams Act. I mean,
We need an engineer.
Yes.
So, okay, minutes?
Mr. Chair, I think we've got the longest set of minutes I've
Yes.
ever read. 13 pages, my God, and they're excellent. I've only found one thing that confuses me a little bit. That's on page 2, halfway down. I love the layout.
Yes.
Which, you know, has the discussion, has the motions, where you can find them. It's really good. But on page 2, halfway down, it has a motion to send both letters, one to the zoning board and one to the current owner. And it says requested by Michael, but it doesn't say who made the motion or how it was voted. And I don't even know if sending letters required a motion. But every other motion has, you know, who made the motion, who seconded, and, you know, who voted. And so that one just had a motion requested but not acted on. So I just think, I'm not sure that those, we actually had a motion on that. I think we just had Michael send those letters.
So we could table this until we straighten it out and look at it next week, when she looks through the stuff.
You want to table the whole minutes?
Yeah,
All 13 pages of it?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, I think they were really well done.
guess we're keeping Nadine busy too.
They really are terrific.
No, you can just table it.
Just
Yeah.
pass over,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.